everybody. Big crowd tonight. Thank you all for coming. This is the Select Board of Jackson, August 27, 2019, a regular meeting at 3:30 here at the town office, and I will call the meeting to order. First, up on the docket here is the approval of the minutes from August 13, 2019. I will entertain a motion to move those minutes.
So moved.
I wasn't here.
So I'll have to second.
Yes.
Any discussion?
No.
You had a chance to
I did
peruse
read
them?
them, yes.
Okay.
They look good to me.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Next is the approval of the, well, actually we approved them after we came out of non-public, but just to note that the non-public meetings for August 13, 2019, there was a correction. It was RSA 91-A3 2C, not 2B, as in Shakespeare.
Yes.
That was clever, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. You're on fire today.
Oh, yeah. You weren't there.
I wasn't there.
All right. Item 3 are the action items. Let's see, we didn't have technically any action items for us. We did have Julie Hoyt was going to do a thank you letter to the Lions Club for their donation to the police department. I assume that was taken care of. Thank you very much for doing that. Upcoming meetings, September 10th, 24th, October 8th and 22nd. I will not be here for the 10th, I'm afraid. So hopefully you both are going to be here for the 10th.
I'll be here.
All right. I apologize, but I guess this memo is for you. Blue sticky there?
Conservation Commission.
You call that?
I don't know.
All right.
Can't make out your hair, but. I have no idea what the.
Julie put a note on there. I don't know, I didn't get the email, so I think it's about Jeff Sayers. Is he helping with the?
Oh, Jeff
participating in the-
Sayers, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you mentioned
He's the
something.
Conservation Commission member that is doing the local culvert assessment program.
Culvert
Yeah,
assessment.
I don't think you mentioned that in the last meeting, but
Oh,
she
okay.
just wanted you to mention that,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
All right. Alrighty, because of commitments within the fire department, we would like to entertain a motion here to move old business of the fire station feasibility study to item 3, between 3 and 4, if anybody would.
I'm fine with that.
I'll make a motion to move it from 8 up to 3 and a half.
Any discussion on that?
Nope.
All right, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye, all right, thank you very much. The fire department has their fire department meeting, so they would like to be moved up, and I think that's, since we have people here today, I'm psyched. All right, would you like to start? This is your gig, I guess.
Jerry, were you going to present, or?
Sure, yeah, is that now?
So,
Want me to come up, or-
Yeah, do you have a copy of the document that I sent?
I just got one, actually.
Modern
There's
technology.
some copies right there.
Oh, perfect.
Yep.
Would anybody else?
Yeah,
Are there
did send
copies
it
for
out.
anybody?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Hi, Doc, how are you?
Good, John, how you doing?
Good.
how are you? Nice to see you.
Likewise. So did you all have a chance to review?
Just moments ago.
Yeah.
We haven't had any thoughts on it yet.
As did I. So, as it states, we've had several informal meetings about the feasibility of building a new fire station. And the last meeting, you had also thrown out the idea that we should look into the idea of renovating the current building as well. And I think there's a few things we'd like to ask for at this point for you to consider. First would be to formalize the committee that's doing this. We've got several people that have been meeting that would like to remain on that committee and be on that committee. And I think we're at a point now where maybe that should be formalized so that we can be a formal subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen. And I think Barbara has agreed to participate on that.
I agree with that.
The other thing we looked at is, at the last meeting, you had asked us to look at the idea of renovating the building, and that has been in the works. It's roughly going to cost between $300,000 and $350,000 to renovate the current fire station, and to accommodate a larger truck, the bigger dispatch area, larger appropriated SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus area. That would not include, however, making the building ADA compliant. Much of the current wiring and plumbing is not up to code. Snow pile up in front of the garage will still be a problem. There'll still be height restrictions for trucks. There will be a lack of parking spaces. There's no further room for expansion. Access for fire trucks and safety is still an issue due to the road frontage and road access limitations. Access to trucks inside the building is limited. Hazmat and SCBA areas will still not be sterile, as there's no space for a decontamination room. There's no additional storage room, and the building will not be energy efficient. And the cost of maintenance of the existing building will continue to be high due to the age of the structure. And that's kind of preliminary information that's we've looked into anyway. We also have met with an architectural firm that has given us steps in the process to design a conceptual design and placement of a new fire station. They gave us a quote of about $20,000 to do that process. And we'd like to ask this, at this point, for the selectmen to consider putting that into the operating budget, perhaps in a professional service or something like that, for approval in March, for us to engage formally with that architectural firm to begin the design and planning process. We'd also like you to consider the making of a capital reserve fund, either for the construction of a new fire station or renovation of the current fire station. Timeline process, kind of what we're looking at here is that 2020 we would really begin the design and planning of a new fire station, or alongside of that trying to determine the actual costs of renovating and expanding the current building. So we would still be looking at all options if you wanted us to. That capital reserve fund, so timeline, if we're looking at 2020 to begin the planning, if we are going to be able to actually come up with something for approval in March of 2021, either for renovating or construction of a new fire station, we would need actual funds beyond the $20,000 for planning, which is really more of conceptual design and placement of the building and kind of what the overall look of the campus would be if, for what we're to do. If we're actually going to have engineered designs and actual planning to actually construct for something that would have to be bonded and have to go for approval, we would need funds beyond that $20,000. So we'd just like to consider that perhaps making a capital reserve fund for such a endeavor. And again, so that would be looking at to getting something really in the works for 2021. I think that's where we're at with everything. So I don't know whether maybe we can submit names to Julie for the committee, and you guys can consider that for your next meeting, perhaps to make it formalize the committee and consider other options.
Sounds like a committee is the next step. Obviously you had a lot of input in this, and any of your thoughts on that?
No, I think it's definitely time to formalize the committee. I noticed that you wrote something about as far as bonds outstanding, and we do have the highway building.
Reading my notes.
2031. But that, we realize it's a long process, and in order to get it started, it's not something we felt we would need to jump into. It's something that's going to be a long process. So in order to do that, we really wanted to take the right steps in looking at what the best study is. Again, this would be a 6th addition or renovation on the building. So whether or not that's the right step to spend that much money needs to be revisited. We also want to be able to have some public meetings to see what everyone thinks of the two options. So a committee would be able to move this process forward in the right direction.
And something that we would probably want to put together for the public meeting would be a timeline of the current bonds that are, in the works, not only for the town, but for the school as well.
Right.
Which would be helpful really to reflect upon anything that we're considering for budgeting purposes. And that's certainly something the committee could do so we'd have it, on paper as part of the set in a more concrete format.
You have something to add?
Probably a couple of points. What do you mean by formalize the committee? I remember having the discussion in the meeting that there was a committee that would meet and we chose a selectman representative, and if that's not formalized enough, because we talked about who was on the committee, how does it need to be more formalized in your mind?
I don't know, and that might be up to you guys as well.
I think in my mind, before we started here, I felt like it is formalized.
I know we had a selectmen's meeting, it was where it was the budget meeting. Budget meeting is where the whole thing started, where some people from the public didn't want to, wanted to look at this option rather than put all kinds of money into the existing station. And we talked about it one other time, between me and one of the selectmen or all of the selectmen, I'm not sure quite how but you guys basically told me to start to see who's got interest in this. So that's how,
Okay.
I don't know if we call ourselves a committee or what we called ourselves, but it was just a group of people with permission from Dick and you or whoever was involved in that discussion. And that's how the group came about.
Well, I thought we had specifically identified Dick, and he volunteered to serve on the committee. So if it needs to be more are you talking about like a motion and a second?
Minutes.
I guess that's kind of what I'm kind of getting at. Where
Probably
you guys
don't need to waste time talking about the differences if we'll just do that. I think that so I always felt that identifying the shortcomings in the current facility was going to help you make your case when the time comes, because you're going to end up with a hard number at some point, and this number looks incomplete to me. It would be nice to get a ballpark of what the wiring and plumbing would take to get up to code. It would be nice to be getting a ballpark number on how we could make it ADA compliant. It's my understanding that there really needs to be an elevator in that building. Mm-hmm. So be it. What is the cost of the elevator? And then you've got a more realistic comparison, because there will be a time when the people in the town will want to be able to compare apples to apples as much as they can. It's the cost for renovation, completely renovating it so it's a building that can stand up over time. And then still identify the things that money can't buy. Money can't buy a lack of parking spaces. Money can buy more room for expansion. And just to get that number as clean as you can for comparison, I think is in the committee's best interest. And then the third thing that I wanted to throw out was that, to me, so you're asking for money to be put in the operating budget, and I'm wondering why. I know a lot of times when we come to the town with new things, we like to put it in a warrant article. If there was a warrant article that established a capital reserve fund for the purpose of exploring the renovation or construction of a new facility, that we ended up wanting then to put $20,000 in towards this, it would seem, so that's got to be voted on by the people in the town, and that's where we get the message
So
that they're for it.
In regards to that, that's something that, you know, we talked about and
Yeah,
couldn't really
I
figure
figured you
out
did.
figure out the best way to do. And so like the $20,000 would be specifically to engage with the,
Sam and
Delia, architectural firm. So we're trying to figure out how to keep that separate from design funds. For instance, if when you're talking about more details on the renovation of the building, a lot of those things, we would still like to carry that through with us as far as this committee would be concerned and how we engage the public, because really this is going to take buy-in from the public, and it's like at public meetings, we don't want to take off the table, oh, you guys can't even think about renovations anymore. The number of 3 to 350,000 is, that was by 2 different general contractors that gave us that number. So that could certainly be ironed out, but starting to iron out some of those more details is actually going to take engineering costs. And that's why the wording of a capital reserve fund that could do everything we needed to do might get a little tricky, but it's possible. So we'd have to work a little bit with the New Hampshire Municipal Association probably a little bit, and probably get Peter to weigh in on how do we word a capital reserve fund that shows, okay, that would allow us to do everything we need to do. We weren't quite sure it could do that with the money set aside for Sam and Delia, and we wanted to separate the two so that we're transparent there. But any way that you think would be the best way to do that would be something that we can continue to have conversations about.
I'm just thinking back to the old library, and there was a warrant article to approve funding for that. It wasn't everything they needed, and that showed us the appetite from the town, from the legislative body at moving forward to do something about that facility. And I pay close attention at those annual meetings, and then anything that can give us a sense of what their appetite is for that. It's going to come up. I mean, certainly, if we put it in the operating budget, either way, I just think that setting up a capital reserve fund for that purpose might be the way to go. It might not be, but I was just wondering why you chose that. So thank you.
So, well, to answer your question, I think part of that 20,000 for the study, there's an element in there looking at renovation versus new place versus new in a different location. We got some really hard numbers on putting basically in addition with some upgrades. It doesn't necessarily upgrade the entire building. An elevator in that existing building is pretty much, you're never going to make that existing building completely ADA. I don't believe you got an elevator. It's just not. And I was originally, if we go back even 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I always said I wanted to maybe someday do an addition because a new fire station is just so expensive. But in really studying it hard, getting prices, talking to contractors, looking at the safety aspect of it, looking at the ADA side of it. In addition to a building that was built in 1947 that's got 5 additions on it, is not looking so hot. And like I said, that's what I originally wanted to do, me personally. It's definitely a tough, that building's got 5 additions on it since 1947.
So I understand that. I'm not asking because I'm trying to steer you towards a renovation. I'm asking where you're at with some of these things that are clearly big number items.
So part of that study, renovation.
You'll be able to get a more accurate figure as you begin the work, is what you're saying. Good.
Well, if I can add to that.
Sure.
To answer. The study, the formal study that we get, if you had a chance to read the proposal that we got, they have done multiple fire stations and public safety buildings throughout New Hampshire and beyond. And the first thing, they'll see what our thoughts are and comparing to what the codes that are and the minimums and maximums. And we really are gonna have a hard time getting, in our opinion, the feel from the taxpayers in general without having an awful lot of answers that that study would give us. And that's one of the, I think that's one of the reasons why we said, well, we'll do this. That's really, is because we're really going to go after the public to show the need and be able to identify the need, and it's going to take a lot of public input meetings, but to be able to do that and answer questions that will probably come up at town meeting, we won't have the answers. And I know I was very loud in some of our ad hoc meetings that, you know, we've seen town and school, if you don't have all your information, even the best supporters have questions, and that's why we want to try to do that first. And that would gauge. It's not a question of me. We feel strongly there's a need, but it's a question of, okay, when is the right time? Is it now, or 3 years from now, or whatever? We don't, you know, that's what we want to have.
Well, I think I'm looking forward to the initial discussion taking place at the next town meeting. So whether we basically halt going through the operating budget approval process when that line item comes up and have the discussion then, or have it later in the meeting when it's wrapped around a warrant article. I mean, it's 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other. It's going to happen, but I was just wondering why you chose that route. Maybe then we do have a capital reserve fund request that we also put in to establish a capital reserve fund, a warrant article to do that. As well.
Yeah, no, I think whatever everybody thinks makes the best sense.
Yeah, which would really be
Whatever
a
gets laid
more of
out.
the select board than anything.
Okay,
So,
sure.
This way, you know, at this point, we felt really for us to do anything, it's where you people sit and what decision you make going forward. Gives us an idea what to do with it.
Well, when the time comes today, if you're looking for a motion to formalize the committee's work as a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen, I'm happy to make it.
and one other thing that that can really kind of do is that, so when you have charges to the committee to do, then it's more formalized. It's just, you know, you're saying that you want the committee to do this, X, Y, or Z, then it's just a more transparent way of doing it. So it's not the committee thinking, okay, we want to do this now. It's the selectmen saying, want you to look into this now. And I guess that's where I see the formalization of the committee really being the most effective. It's really more,
Yeah.
what do you want us to do versus, okay, we've thought of the basics now. It's just to make it more transparent to the public and so that
Absolutely.
everyone has more input to it.
And of course, those meetings would have to be recorded, you know,
Right.
notes and minutes and things like that.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on that? Well, I'll entertain a motion to formalize a committee to research the fire station feasibility.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
Any other discussion? I'll vote yes.
I think that you have to appoint the people on the committee though, so we would have to do appointment letters as well.
Right, so send out, or have people send in appointment letters.
People that you're appointing. To formalize it, I'm pretty sure that's how we do it.
And give you the next meeting,
All right.
the next step.
So at the next meeting, we'll have a list of recommendations to serve, and we'll do formal appointments. Okay, great. Do you have a next meeting scheduled?
We don't.
No.
We just kind of curious how you were going to accept the whole thought and idea and the fact that we need money to go much farther to study it. So we hope we didn't have anything specifically.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's our timeline then. At the next meeting, we'll get a recommendation of people to serve on the committee and approve some formal appointments at that point. And
And when you entertain the idea of naming the people on the committee, just as an example, one thing you might be able to charge us with would be to come up with a plan for a public meeting
yeah,
on the process, probably before your budget season gets too underway.
Right.
So that, just to make it a little bit easier on how the discussion goes into your budget process. So,
yeah, absolutely. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Do we have to I don't think we voted, do we have to vote for the committee?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
All right?
Aye.
Very good. Thanks,
And I'd
Doc.
also like to thank the people that have been serving up to this point for
Absolutely.
volunteering all of your time and effort to get this far. I mean, that you've gotten it quite far along for the amount of money you've spent, which is zero.
Yes,
I like that. I like that number.
Thank you.
me too.
Jay has really done most of the legwork on this, and we've really just been more of a sounding board for it than anything else at this point. But
Is that true, Chief?
Billy's helped out a lot too.
Yeah.
We've-
Yeah, he lined up the architect to come in.
We've really
which
just
is
been in there throwing
educational.
roadblocks in their ideas, so,
Great.
thanks.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
up.
Appreciate it, Doug. And Jay, and everybody else. All righty, moving on to item 4, Bartlett Rec. Annette, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very well. How are things in the big town of Bartlett?
Yeah,
Bartlett Rec.
it's good, it's good. Our little project's moving along and more property and then, but the reason I'm here is for another endeavor, I'll say, that has approached, I was approached by Christmas Fireman and John Magazoo to, he would like to sell Christmas Fireman to Bartlett Rec.
Christmas Mountain, you mean?
Christmas Mountain, yeah.
Wow, that's news to me.
I don't know how I even got that, but Christmas Mountain, yes. He,
Must have a wig today.
yeah, he would, I met with John and a couple of his associates back in August. And I'm very interested in purchasing it. The problem is money. We've met quickly with another group of people that I think we can spearhead a committee to fundraise nearly, if not entirely, the amount that he's asking for. He's asking that we purchase it for $400,000 because we're a nonprofit. If it were to go to anybody else, it would be at a higher price. And he's also going to gift us $100,000 to use as we wish. So we could use it to, you know, for the first year running expenses, or we can take it off the top of, it's really $5,000, so if he gifts us $1,000, it'd be $400,000. So it's between the $400,000 and the $500,000. I met with the Board of Selectmen to kind of like I would like to have at least gotten a blessing from them on whether, you know, they wanted to see forward. I didn't get any no's, but I didn't get any yeses either, which is a big step.
Right.
That's huge. So they asked me to come and talk to you guys because I've always felt that Bartlett Recreation is Jackson and Bartlett, not just Bartlett. I've tried hard not to separate them. I've tried to get them together and, you know, include you guys in everything that we offer and for the kids and the community. So I'm not here to ask for money. I'm here to ask for a sort of a blessing that you guys would be in favor of Bartlett Rec purchasing this for the two communities, and that perhaps there would be some way that I could tie into letting the people of Jackson know that this is our intent, and when we start to fundraise, that maybe we could get some funding from both towns. It is not my intent at this point to go for any warrant articles. I'd like to do it fundraising, and I think if we could form a strong fundraising committee, I think we could pull the money together to purchase it. He's in no hurry, so there's a time, I have a wide band of time of when I can purchase it. I see the building being used for summer program, activities, maybe offering swimming for our seniors, or, you know, open swim time, There's 2 pools, there's an indoor and an outdoor. It's a great space, there's a great space upstairs for dances or other activities. What used to be the bar area is wide open. I'm thinking, oh, you know, it'd be a great place to have little functions for kids or whatever, or after-school activities and have smoothies or, you know, things like that. So there's an exercise room, racquetball courts, there's saunas, there's outdoor pickleball, tennis, and 2 new bocce ball courts. So it's a great spot, and I think my vision of what could be there is great. I think it would be a great resource for both of Jackson and Bartlett together. Kids, community, adults, young, old, babies, doesn't matter. I think it's just going to be a great facility for everyone. So that's basically why I'm here, just to let you know what I'm doing. And maybe you could give me some guidance on how to reach out to Jackson residents, you know, through a letter or a mailing. I don't know, you know.
How many people from Jackson participate in the Bartlett Rec at this point? Do you have any?
All the kids that participate in sports, and it varies. I don't have any exact numbers with me. So if during the summer, a lot of the kids from Jackson came to our summer program. Does Jackson run a 5-day-a-week program for camp? You know, we had quite a few kids join our program this year from Jackson. And then, of course, there's any sport from preschool age up to 6th grade for any sport they want to join. Typically, you guys do your own soccer. There has been in the past where we've combined for soccer when our numbers didn't meet. But this year, we're going to have 2 separate soccer teams, and they come to our baseball, basketball, and whatever else they would like to join in on.
Sounds interesting, for sure.
It's definitely going to be interesting.
Well, first, you're getting the word out through obviously the selectmen's meeting and stuff. You know, certainly we can pass things out in email, you know, e-news, you know, that type of stuff. Obviously, you got some time on your hand in terms of people coming forward and making those fundraising efforts come to fruition.
Yeah, the selectmen wanted to have a a building inspection done, so we did a building inspection yesterday, had the pools checked out. I haven't got a report back. Then my meeting with you, and then on the 15th, I meet, you gotta go back to the selectmen. And then,
That's a good one.
and then I'm meeting with that committee, and then we're gonna move forward with forming that committee. We'll be rolling before, well into, I'd say in October, our committee will be up and running and hopefully starting to raise some funds for that portion, for the Christmas Mountain.
Is it presently being used, or is it kind of?
It is, it's in operation, and I'm glad you asked that, because they have I've gotten copies of their membership. They have a fairly large membership, and most people will think it's just pickleball, but it's not. There's people that go up there and there's a girl there that does Reiki downstairs, and they have the they have the game room, and they have the exercise room, and they actually have people that have memberships to use that portion.
So would you continue those memberships then?
Right. And then with Cranmore potentially closing, then I guess those people have already showed some interest in coming up and doing it. And then I think as we combined, as we opened it up, and I would think that more memberships would come in, and we'd have I guess my vision would be to not charge everybody a membership, try to work something out, so if it was a Bartlett Jackson resident, that it was less than what are gonna have cost, right? So that, I haven't quite figured that part out yet, but I'm working on it. So that's it, that's why I was here, so, you have any other questions or thoughts?
No, I think that I certainly support you looking into the feasibility of raising funds to do that. I don't have any issue around it, and I think as you get further along, you'll probably have some more concrete ideas
Yep.
on a business plan and how that's going to work and impact the people that are currently users and impact the rec program. So I have no problem at all with you looking into it.
I'd like to see the Red Cross swimming come back.
Yeah, I would too, I really would like to see it come back. I think it's, right now.
How big is the pool anyways?
It's a standard size pool and it goes to, starts out at 3 and goes to 6, I think. The indoor pool,
Is it lap worthy? I mean, is it?
no, it's not, but they have talked about putting in a lap pool. The indoor pool tends to drop off much more. It's more for adults than the outdoor pool's more for all ages.
So on the fundraising, are you trying to cover the cost of it, or are you trying to set up funds to manage the cost of maintaining and running it moving forward?
Right now, it
Yeah.
currently maintains itself, or
Yeah,
pretty
membership
close to
cost.
maintaining itself. The hard part is the winter,
Yeah.
because it's, you're heating that pool.
Right.
And so that's where the highest cost in the winter comes in, is heating the pool.
Mm-hmm.
And he says sometimes the membership drops off in the winter because everybody's skiing, and, so, that's why if my goal would be to have enough membership that it would maintain and be able to keep staff on, because, I can't be there every day.
You can't?
No. So, but those things I think will work out once we start figuring out the funding going forward. And I'll keep you informed on how it goes after I meet with, next time with the selectmen, and then when we start to form that committee. And then maybe I can talk to Julie about getting a blurb out to somebody somehow. All right? Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Chair?
I'd just like to say how incredibly exciting that is, particularly with its proximity to Jackson. And I do understand that the club is actually used by a fair amount of Jackson residents right now.
It is.
And that's just really exciting news, and I wish you the best of luck with it.
Thank you.
And I can also attest, she's having difficulty saying how many Jackson kids participate in it. And I would say that it really goes back to the first thing she said, which she doesn't really consider there to be any difference between Jackson and Bartlett students or children. And having just gone through that whole thing with my son from preschool on up to now, that really is the case. He really participated in a very large amount of Bartlett rec programs, and they were fantastic for him, and most of our kids do.
Thank you.
And you can coach the next swim team. I'm all that.
You should, John.
We'd beg for you to come back.
All right, I'll be in
Do your
touch.
best.
I'll let you guys know. Thank you so much. Thanks for
you.
listening.
Appreciate it coming. All right, Kathleen, Jackson Chamber of Commerce.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you folks?
We're basically here, we do have, it's kind of redundant, the Jackson Beautification Project, which we have a committee for. Jackson's already beautiful. This year, we were trying to get away from just having the wreaths, because those things have been up there for 8 years. They were donated by Larry Seibert, God bless him. And that was a project that he paid for in full, all by himself, and it was about $8,000. We had 32 wreaths. They're long overdue to be replaced. And rather than go forward with wreaths, they came up with the idea of the snowflakes. We have a committee of 5, and all 5 of them love the idea. It would have been great if we could have them lit, but we knew from the get-go that you can't light them on those poles. We're lucky we have the hanging rods that we have on there. And I don't even think that they know that they're there, and if we draw attention to it, they might make us take it down. So we found a company that will make these. The bottom piece will not be on there. They're going to design them so that they hang off of the existing display rods, so we don't have to change anything. They're not lit, but they're durable and sustainable and very inexpensive. We did our research, and we would like to. And I sent out, I don't know if you guys got the copy of it. This was just a sample, and it just shows at the bottom a little sign. And we're looking for your advice, permission, to see if we can put it out to the residents and the businesses to help defray the costs of it. These can be made the way we need them to be with no added hardware, just go up and hung. And we were going to reduce it, was 32 wreaths, we want to drop it down to 20. And they were priced in at, with the sponsor signs being added to it, for a total cost of $3,000. And that's hung. And that's basically it.
And you're gonna defray some of the costs by seeking sponsorship?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And there are several different designs.
Yep. Yeah, this was just a sample to give you an idea of what we were looking for. We won't go forward with anything. We'll share everything with you before we do it. Because that's the kind of folks we are.
Yeah.
So about 150 each, roughly.
Yeah, well, then we have to get the signs. These were $145 a piece to be made. They're being all made individually.
There's a
so that
range, so
they
that's
can hang
roughly.
right off of the display things that are out there on the poles now.
Yeah.
Just pretty
And
much
that-
asking for the sponsorship sign.
And that also includes the cost of putting them up and taking them down.
The 3,000?
Yep,
No, well,
for the first initial year.
yes, in
For
general,
everything.
roughly, that's what it is. And that's a chunk of change that the chamber can't do. So it's something that we're hoping to
And the town
be able
does give us
to.
$1,000 every
Right.
year.
But,
Right.
yeah, and we have used that.
Yeah.
So basically, this is just to make sure that we are able, with the signage and all, to do sponsor signs on the snowflakes.
And we would do
cover
it to
their
the
costs.
residents and businesses, because there are lots of people that
There's
might.
only-
We've actually been approached
Yeah,
by some
20.
residents that want to help too, so, and then we go from there.
And these should last, I told her how strong the wind and the hail and rain and everything is around the little village. And she said that, this should sustain itself for at least 7 to 10 years.
And it's more seasonal than going with
With wreaths.
the wreaths, because that's holiday. What we're trying to do is hit the beginning of snow to the end of snow, from the end of October, beginning of November until the end of March.
So they will be coming down at some point.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and then
Oh,
the
yeah, up
flags.
and down.
Yeah.
So your timeline for this, are you looking for us to put this on a warrant article
No,
asking for
just,
an
we're
increase?
just
No, we
asking
just
permission
need-
for the
Or are you
signage.
looking
Just for the
us to-
signs.
That's all we want, is to make sure that we're able to put signs
I don't know
for
what the
sponsorship
rules
on the
are.
snowflakes.
Oh, okay.
Everything, we don't need anything else. We've got
Yeah,
the
the-
brackets, we're not changing anything on the poles, we're not doing anything. It's just an issue of making sure that we're all on the same page, that it's okay signage-wise to put a sponsor sign on there, like the Snowflake Inn.
Wentworth,
Wentworth,
Christmas Farm Inn,
Mm,
Fritz.
Riverwood, whoever is
In
going to
honor
pick
of
up the
Fritz.
sponsorship.
right.
It's just a signage question. Are we able to put a small sign for the people who sponsor these wreaths?
Different than
You know,
We don't need money, we don't need
Yeah,
anything.
Okay. So, we got some input. There was there's a business in town that's looking to develop part of their land into a composting co-op. And they sent out a survey, monkey survey, to people with some really basic questions that they kind of wanted feedback on. And it was a great way for people to provide their feedback on what they were trying to do. From hours of operation to, are you in favor of this? How do you currently compost? Do you? Would you use it? Things like that. And so I guess the point is those surveys are pretty simple to do, and if there was one that went out on e-news and people could click on a link and provide some feedback, it might be kind of a great way to gauge public support.
For the
Well,
signs,
We
we have the
wanted to know
beautification
is,
committee.
can we put a sign on the snowflake? It's just, with the signage
Right.
law in Jackson, we weren't sure.
Right.
Is it legal for us to put a small sign for each company or each family that sponsors the snowflake? It just hangs off of the snowflake.
Yeah.
It was just a signage question.
No, I get that, I just think this would be a way for me to say, I'm in favor of sponsorship, I'm not in favor of it.
Oh, I'm not worried about getting, we've probably got the sponsors already at this point. We're not looking for
Right.
sponsors, we're looking for permission to put the sponsors.
Right.
Yeah, we had,
And so I'm not looking for sponsors either. What I'm looking for is public support for something like this. As an elected representative, I like to know that this is something that, people are going to be in favor of, or if they're against it, however they feel about it would be a great way for me to kind of understand whether it gives us a much more
are you talking about
credibility of
using
moving
the
forward.
snowflake? Or, because 6 or 7 years ago, before we got the second set of wreaths, we were asked by the selectmen to have like the beautification committee, which we have. And the committee meets and it makes the determination how to move forward. So we thought we did all that legwork, and they came up with the sponsorship signage. And I was like, whoa, can't do that until we get permission from the town.
So it's just part of your normal beautification project stuff, you just want the permission to sign.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was just.
You're already
it was
doing the
really simple.
snowflake.
Yeah, we've already, well, we
They're
had,
doing the snowflakes
lots of
because
meetings,
it's
lots of,
Big project.
yeah, lots of meetings, lots of proposals, getting figures and money and the whole bit.
And time frame is
And
always of the
timeframe.
essence, because the wreaths, literally, when we took them down, we thought we'd have more time to do this, but when we took them down, they dismantled themselves in my basement. So we knew then and there that the committee had to get on the stick. So we did, and it was a project, and so this is what we came up with. The only question we had was, can we put the little sign like that that says the sponsorship for, it's...
Which would help
We have
raise
a
the
committee,
money.
and we have a Chamber of Commerce, and we've worked hard on this. And instead of putting falling apart wreaths, we're changing over to something that's easier maintained. The simple question is, are we permitted with Jackson's sign policy ordinance to put a small sponsored by sign? That's my only question. With this part is done. We've worked hard, we've got a committee, we've found the funding, we've found the sponsors. We're not looking for sponsorship because at this point, my guess is 20 are paid for, or 20 have been committed to. But now we're trying to figure out how to give them credit for that sponsorship. And if a little sign could be hung on that, that would be terrific. Answers the question.
Kind of like the bricks down in front of Horse Feather.
Exactly.
But I thought we were doing it the right way because we were asked to have that committee, which we do.
Right.
What about the owners of the poles? They would
Well,
have...
the brackets are already there. We're not changing anything.
Right, but,
The brackets.
just playing the
are-
devil's
Yeah.
advocate that, the people who, telephone company, cable company, whoever is the pole owner, do they have any say in what goes up there?
Yeah, it can't be lit.
Can't be
Right.
lit.
Right.
Anything about...
We
That's why,
already
because
did
we
that.
would love
That was
to
a
have
year
had it
ago
lit.
stage.
Right.
Now, we know that we can't light them. The brackets are there. We're not changing a thing. These have already, the company's already designed the ones that are to be manufactured to fit right in those brackets.
There are actually 5 different kinds of snowflakes with different designs on them, which would be like every other pole.
I think every snowflake should be different.
Well, aren't they? We're not doing a good representation, are we?
I personally don't have a problem
I
with
don't
it
have a
myself.
problem with it.
Yeah.
I think it's
Thank
nice.
you. That's it. We're
Oh,
good.
no, the electric.
Oh, the electric, no, not my part. So, as probably all of you know, and Jake's still here, the big tree has seen better days that we used to decorate, and there are people in town that lament the big tree being lit, and so do we. but it has seen better days, and we're no longer able to light that tree. The biggest reason before the tree started to die that we weren't able to light the tree anymore is because in order to get enough light bulbs to look like anything, and we were down to about a string and a half at the end, and you can still see them on the tree, is that the electrical, if we went one bulb more, the electrical bounces out of the box. The box isn't, it needs to be beefed up. The electric box needs to be repaired and beefed up to handle the electric in the park. So if anybody wanted to do a demo or wanted to do anything at all electric, once we've got our smaller tree decorated, we kick the box off. So each year it's an issue. Each year we work hard to make it beautiful out there with one tree and with the gazebo. But we have to cut back and cut back on the lighting. As the tree gets bigger, we have to cut back and cut back because we only so many, even though we've gone LED, very good LED, it kicks the box out. So last year, we got our tree decorated, we got the gazebo decorated with just enough lights so that it doesn't kick the box off. And somebody plugged in the 1.5 string, it's actually not, there's probably 6 light bulbs left on that string, left on the big dead tree. Who knew that you could still plug that in? And they found it wrapped up. Now you can see them all, they've all been untwined. And it blew the whole park, everything went out. So we kept unplugging, stringing it up. Eventually we had to cut that plug because somebody kept doing it. At some point we'll probably put something out there so we can see what goes on, because we have people unplugging the trees and plugging the trees and, you know, plugging them in too early. We get them set up ready for the tree lighting ceremony and they plug them in ahead of time, which sort of kills the thing. We would love nothing more than to make the park really beautiful and have trees sponsored that are just up for the Christmas season, from tree lighting, with a big thing to do with tree lighting, and then off after Christmas. After Christmas vacation, the Christmas lights would come off. These obviously would stay up right through snow because that's the whole point. If we don't fix the electric, we can't do that. And right now we're in a perfect world. We would find some sponsorship for taking down the large tree, because it's an eyesore, and people who love that tree and love the way it's lit. When it's lit, it's beautiful at night in the dark if it's done properly. We don't have enough juice for that anymore. But when the sun comes up, the tree is dead and all you see is string. For the town of Jackson, that we pride ourselves in being this beautiful quintessential New England town, it looks like hell. And I know that that's in the future. But in the meantime, if we could get the electric so that we could have a few more trees or have at least enough lights to do the gazebo properly at the same time as we do the big spruce tree out there, that would be all we could ask. But we are going to have to request that the electric box be repaired and juiced up, upgraded, correct.
Do we know what the cost is?
I do not. I was told to sit on my thumbs until I talk with you guys, because I tend to jump in and get her done. But I was told not to do that.
What if Kevin can weigh in?
Kevin? You got any thoughts on that, Kev?
Yeah, I was wondering where you plug in the tree, both, I mean, they're probably on GFIs, but both, you plug in the Christmas tree lights and then the breaker goes, does the other breaker below it burn out too?
Everything goes, and we have to go to the box.
Yeah.
It's not to the plug.
So my thought on that, and I'm sure there's conduit underground, I'm hoping there is, so, I mean, I think the easy fix would be it's probably just a 2-wire in there, and you can pull that out and feed a 3-wire through. You could have 2 dedicated circuits, 20 amp circuits. And they could be
Everything right now goes, all of our juice for what we're using presently goes to the gazebo. So we're really working off of one plug with with
Yeah,
the
so you would
steps.
have, so technically, I think you could have, instead of like either one 15-amp circuit, you could have two 20-amp circuits.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the quick fix.
Right.
Anything after that, you're talking about trenching and digging and,
Yeah.
you know.
And it's entirely possible that we could get some sponsorships for some of that, if
Yeah,
we
we'd be
could
willing.
figure that out for
Yeah,
sure.
so enough electricians around who, you know
Exactly.
what I'm saying,
And I
just
just-
maybe
yeah.
materials or
Security,
something.
just the security, it worries me that we don't know who it is. I did report it when Kyle was here. We have somebody that just doesn't like to see the things happen, and they were literally cutting them, taking scissors and turning the lights off and then cutting them, and throwing what they've cut off on the chamber doorstep with a little note, here's your lights. And then this year, somebody was unplugging them constantly. And my fear is that if they're doing that, I mean, you don't know, they could get hurt. You know, especially the ones that are cutting it.
When the snow got deep enough, they stopped doing it, but until then, it was annoying.
We need ways to rectify that, but I wasn't aware of,
Yeah, I
not that I hear everything from you, but I mean, if
Yeah,
that's
well, I
something,
tried
please pass
to.
that on to us, that
Yeah, I
happens.
know,
We
but
can
then
take
I
care
felt
of that
like-
for
Not
you.
half the time, but when it happens, but I see it out my window.
Right.
So
Well, we
I
can take care of
go and I plug
Thank
everything
you.
back in. But,
Yeah, it was kind of hurtful when we got all, we just bought all brand new lights, and someone cut them up into little pieces and left me a note that said, here's your lights.
Last year, they cut fairy lights, which was really expensive, and I sponsor all that, so it was.
Yeah, it's expensive, it's very expensive.
So, in any case, we're thrilled about the signs, so we can move forward with that, and if we could make a request that we get some bids or permission.
Kevin could probably look into
And
that.
we would
for us.
help.
What's that?
We will help.
Can you help us out with that? Take a look at that, see what we might need?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you. All right, speaking of Kevin, we'll move on to building inspector. Nice lead in there.
Yeah. Good timing.
A lot of shingles going up.
Yeah, lots of, yeah. So anyway, there's 5 new building permits,
Sure.
and I don't know if anybody has any questions about the building permits. I'm not gonna read them all, but if they have any questions, you can ask me. I was gonna touch on another, just another issue in town. The new life and safety fire code's coming out September 10th, and the new building code's coming out September 15th. And actually, I was talking to Jay about this, about egress windows, because the fire marshal just put out a new bulletin on it's based on the updated fire codes and building codes about egress windows. And the wording's kind of, I have to go over the wording with Jay and maybe some town officials. But basically, there's wording there that says that if you know about bedrooms in 1 and 2 family dwellings that don't have the right size windows, and I'm talking about windows that are what they classify as imminent danger, like small windows you would never get out of, that they have to be corrected at a reasonable time frame. So anyway, and just looking, I was looking around town the other day, just in the, on Airbnb, because there's an issue with a place in town here, and I was just going through some of the houses, and one of the houses that they rent out now for Airbnb, I've been in many times because of the prior owner. We had many ambulance calls there, and we always did a lift assist there or whatever. So anyway, they're renting out the downstairs and then 2 of the bedrooms, and what they're fixed glass, and they have awning windows that they swing. They're hinged from the bottom, they swing out. There's no way you would ever get out of that. So, and then the ones down in the basement, there is no window down there. It's just a basement. They got 2 bunk beds in there. So the only way up is back up the stairs. Not good. Not good. Yeah. And then I just noticed another chalet in town. Same thing. They got this little narrow window at the gable end. And like I said, they're on the website or whatever, so we know about them. So anyway, I think between me and Jay and see what the fire marshal, what their stance really is on this new wording with the bolt, and maybe act upon it or whatever. And it's kind of reasonable where they say there's wording in it, like I said, a reasonable time frame. They talk about correcting the problem. So, now we're going into, 1 and 2 family homes. It's a different story if it's just a family and they're not publicizing, it's not on the web,
Yeah.
but when it's on the website and you're trying to get customers every week to fill those bedrooms, a little different story.
The planning board is also working on some things with Airbnbs and
Yep,
registering them, so it might be worth coming to the planning board meeting.
yeah, I'm getting
Mentioned.
a couple things
Yeah.
together
Good.
about that too, about,
Yeah,
Houses
making sure
that
we
have-
get a proper inspection.
well, that could come down to, that, yeah, so.
Interesting.
Like I said, in today's comedy, the Sun has a big
Yeah,
thing
big
about it. I haven't read it even yet, I haven't had a
About-
chance, but.
Something Jackson?
Conway,
Conway, just Airbnb about.
Well, the last
Trying to regulate.
Jackson Housing Opportunities Matter
mhm,
meeting was all around, with the primary topic of discussion was short-term rentals, and there are a number of towns that are dealing with a big influx of short-term rentals, and left unregulated are starting to feel like there are problems that exist as a result, and there's a way to regulate that. If I want to rent my property for less than 6 months, and that's a state-designated short-term rental period, then I need to come in, and I need to register it, and I need to register it every year, and I need to agree that there won't be more people, there won't be any advertising for more people than the building can hold, and that there'll be a monitoring system, and there'll be a fee collection system, and would be the perfect opportunity to take a look at, making sure that bedrooms, for example, have windows with an egress that is up to code, and a way to really get in and regulate them. And we had somebody come here and complain the last meeting or the meeting before that. I can't remember when she was here, but she's got, 6 cars in the driveway, and 18 people in a building, and that's at a point where there should be a lodging designation. That's at a point where there probably should be sprinklers, and I don't know, all of those things that take place. If people are registered in town before, understand that that's a requirement, obviously there's a process to go through, but I know the planning board's gonna be taking a look at that as well.
Yeah, and I'm getting some info on that, because there's like 3 houses in town that have 2-bedroom septic systems, and one of them, I just looked the other day, they're 2 bedrooms, that they say the place sleeps 12.
yeah.
I'm like, all right, okay, whatever.
Exactly.
math.
And that's what's going on.
So-
And that's,
Yeah,
and that's,
and that's overuse, definitely on the septic system, so without a doubt.
that kind of
So-
thing speaks to the need to regulate. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. So, so I was just bring that to your attention. I think, like I said, between the fire chief, me, and probably the fire marshal's office, I think there'd be more going on with this bulletin that just came out. Jay actually gave it to me today. I didn't even know, because the last bulletin on the egress windows was back in, was 2005. So it was way back, and the wording has changed. And so,
Well, didn't you
updated.
talk about the building codes were coming out the last time you were here?
Yes, I did, yeah,
So,
yeah, we're starting to get some stuff
Safety
together, what
talk.
some of the changes are and stuff, yeah.
It wouldn't shock me if there were some warrant articles at the next annual meeting.
Oh, right.
Looking to gauge interest in town of having these short-term rentals, have some sort of a regulation procedure that doesn't impede on a property owner's rights, but
Yep.
still allows people coming into Jackson to feel like there's some,
High rate of safety.
Right. Yeah, and Julie actually looked up some income generating things from the state or whatever. I guess the state gave back, what, like $43,000 in?
Yeah, the meals and room tax.
Yes.
Yeah,
We're supposed to be getting money from
9%.
Airbnb, New Hampshire is, but our meals and rooms tax went down last year from what it was the prior year, so I don't know where they're at
So that
with
happened.
getting money,
Seems like there were more people up here than ever in
Yeah.
this whole entire area
Yeah.
this past summer.
We'll
Ever.
see what, we get the tax, we get the money in December, so we'll see what happens this December. It goes up there.
Sure.
I have a question. Marilyn Rose. Does the town receive any income if you do a health inspection or some kind of property inspection for these Airbnbs?
It's basically on a volunteer basis if it's a 1 and 2 family home, unless they have, well, I shouldn't say, if they have a building permit now, then like I would go there and check out what building they're doing, and in the process, I make sure they got smoke detectors and egress windows and stuff like that.
So that the town receives money from the new
But
building?
the only money would be, if I had a building permit, yes, I'd be getting money from that.
I have rental property in Massachusetts, and every 3 years I have to have it inspected, and I have to pay the town, I think it's $300 per apartment to have it inspected, and I do the inspection, you know, so it's kind of fuzzy there, but the town does get income, you know, from these Airbnbs, and even I do year-round rentals, and my apartments have to be inspected every 3 years, and the town gets money from that, and the town is always looking for income in Massachusetts.
Sure.
Good way to make some money.
Taxachusetts.
That's all I have.
Well, thank you very much.
All right.
Anybody else have anything to Kevin?
Just, what's an EPDM rubber roof? Quickly.
Actually, no, I actually looked that up. It's just a special coating that they put on metal roofs, and they actually put on rubber membrane, and it's kind of a patented thing. And I actually looked up what that stood for.
Doesn't replace bitumen thing, does it?
No, it doesn't. No,
Okay.
it's not. You can keep it exposed to the sun for, you know, ever. That's what that coating is all about.
Got it.
Yeah, what that actually stands for, it's just a coating. It's
Nice,
like a patented coating.
interesting.
So are you able to make the next planning board meeting and be involved in some of these discussions?
Yeah, I think I can, yes, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think the next ones we have earlier in the month, yeah, and I got some stuff together.
17th? I'm looking at the calendar there.
Yeah, it's
It's usually the
Yeah.
second Thursday.
Second Thursday.
Yeah, the 12th. It's the 12th of
12th will be the
September.
next one.
Yep,
If you can make that, that'd be great.
no, I can.
Super.
Yep.
Thank you for
Thank you.
volunteering.
Well, I think what we end up with is gonna be much better
I think
if you're involved.
Yep, yeah, and being out in the field and stuff, I
Yeah,
see a lot of
that's
this.
right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks,
thanks. All right, moving on to item number 7, new business, cemetery trustees, cemetery lot agreement. This is for lot number 223, the Dundee Cemetery, Kimberly Purley. Take a motion or entertain a motion to sign the trustee of the trust fund cemetery lot agreement for Kimberly.
I will make a motion to sign the cemetery lot agreement for Kimberly Burley.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We have 2 trustee of the trust fund withdrawal, I'm sorry, 1 withdrawal and 1 deposit. Thank you. First one up is the Jackson Selectmen authorize a transfer of $202,000 to be deposited in the capital reserve fund and expendable trust funds per warrant articles listed below. Bridge repair EEF 34, Article 8 for $82,000. Jackson Bartlett ambulance capital reserve fund 70, Article 7 for $10,000. Heavy highway vehicle capital reserve fund 68, Article 7 for $30,000. And fire department truck capital reserve fund 3 for Article 7 for $80,000, totaling $202,000. I will entertain a motion to make that deposit.
I'll make a motion for the deposit of $202,000. You could do the one for the withdrawal.
Second?
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, and Next, we have a withdrawal from the trust funds. Dear trustees, the Board of Selectmen are requesting the following withdrawals from the trust funds as indicated below. $99,000 from the Road Reconstruction Capital Reserve Fund, number 64, which is attached to this form here for documentation purposes. Allstate Asphalt and Company Incorporated, dated 7/30/19, invoice 1103349. I'll entertain a motion to make that withdrawal.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. All righty, any other old business? Anybody have anything?
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment.
Well, do you just want to mention the paving at the transfer station?
Oh, yes, yes, thank you for reminding me. It says there'll be paving on the transfer station road Tuesday, September 3rd. Hopefully it'll be done before noon. Probably might not be a great idea to get up there at noon. For those people who are planning to hit the transfer station on September 3rd.
Are they gonna do the lines?
Not yet, we haven't heard anything on the lines yet, but this is like the final thing, you know, this is, so
That's
once
good.
that up, then,
Can I just make a comment also that the Whitney Center is celebrating their 10th anniversary with a potluck and contra dance on September 28th, so they're gonna put out some communication to save the date, but they're looking forward to celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Whitney Center, so I just wanted to put that out there. So it sounds fun and really a great endeavor. Should be a good time. And if anybody can help people get there, driving, it's gonna be a potluck, but if you don't wanna bring anything, just come and have fun and dance.
bring the luck.
So, yeah. Not the other way.
Pat, did you have something to add about the transfer station? I miss you.
It was just on paving in general.
thank you.
Oh, yeah.
The state started paving today, they started paving Black Mountain Road. I was told that they were coming in to pave, they're paving today and tomorrow, then they're leaving and going to Lincoln to pave there for a few days, and then they're coming back. So it's not all gonna be finished. Looks like they went up Black Mountain Road. I don't know if they're coming all the way back down Black Mountain Road to the village. I don't really know what their plan is, but it's not gonna be completed this week. It'll be, I don't know. It's kind of, who knows? So, and sidewalks.
After Labor Day though, right?
Yeah, they're supposed to be coming right back. I don't know what sense it makes to come and pay for 2 days and then leave for 2 days and then come back for 2 days, but that's the state and that's what they're doing, so. And hopefully sidewalk is done possibly right now, and they'll be finishing up in front of the curb now, so.
Back of my runners table.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, it's coming out good.
Yeah.
And there's just, an FYI, I had mentioned, I think in an update or something, about maybe looking at putting money away to fix the sidewalk from the bridge up. And it looks like the state of New Hampshire next year is going to be doing that sidewalk the whole way. From where we stopped, they're gonna go up through, they're doing a big overhaul on the bridge, and they're gonna be doing guardrail work, and they're gonna rebuild that sidewalk. No cost to us, except taxes. To redo the whole sidewalk all the way up, and they're actually gonna make the corner in front of Wildcat Service Station there. So next year that'll all be ready,
Very good, thank you.
supposedly. It is the state, so.
I believe. All right, anything else there? Public comments? George?
Well, actually, I have three, but with an aging population in Jackson, are they designed, now, whether an addition to the old station or a new station, have they given any thought to, for ambulance service? I know we have rescue people that have to drive from Jackson to Glen to pick up the ambulance and come back to Jackson. And I've discussed this with a few people here. And it seems like it would be advisable to have room for an ambulance in Jackson.
I don't know. Doc, did you guys put that in your feasibility study at all?
Very much so.
Oh, yeah?
It's come up as,
a topic of conversation every time we've basically had a meeting, except for maybe the last one or two. What we're looking at for the fire station right now is a bare minimum for the fire station. Every time we've thought about trying to add more space for an ambulance, it just increases the size of the building. And really what we've been looking to do is to decrease the size of the building. But if that's something you want us to look at, we're certainly willing to, to keep it in there. Whether it's a fire station or infrastructure in general in the town, and I don't know whether it's a 5, 10, 15, or 50-year plan with things, but this building's going to need expansion at some point in time just for the town office. The police station's going to be needing expansion at some point in time. And one thing that we continue to do on this committee anyway is punt the ambulance to the police station, meaning when it comes time to build a new police station, should we also consider putting in a bay for an ambulance as well. Right now we have the agreement with Bartlett. Hopefully that continues into the future. It would help to have an ambulance parked in town for getting to homes in Jackson quicker. But right now, as the Jackson Bartlett ambulance service is set up, it's about staffing and where does it get staffed. So it's working out well right now, but certainly it's something that we should consider for the future. Where it gets put, I don't know, but Huntley's got a good point there. So it should be involved in conversations forever until we get it solved, I think. Which doesn't answer the question, but it's a problem that needs to be considered and should be involved at the process we look at really.
And I'm sure with that, possibly paying our EMTs well, so it would attract more people to become EMTs, because with an aging population, it seems like we really don't want them in short supply.
George?
Yeah, I'd like to make a couple of comments. Has to do with information. In the last meeting, it was approved or advised of the change in the procedures at the transfer station of letter products and no longer being used. And we talked about that about a month ago to find out.
Sorry, what was I missed that?
The transfer, just continue on office papers being separated.
Papers.
And it made it out in e-news, which I think is all good, but it's over a month-old information because this whole thing started unbeknownst to anyone. We discussed it at the 23rd meeting, and but nothing happens. So I go back again to bring that up as a comment. You mentioned that they're going to have a video of the transfer station after all the upgrades and plans are completed. And you mentioned at the time, that's kind of historical information, and from a perspective of residents and who pays the bill, it's like to know ahead of time what's planned and what are we paying for. So again, I throw that out. Last, regarding the update on what the state's doing in our town, paving, etc. The comment was, as I recall from that last meeting, that they don't tell us. I called them. They're very forthcoming and said, here's what's happening. Basically the same thing that we just heard. It's going to be a couple of weeks here. And I didn't ask for any details of which route they were going first, but they had a high priority job they had to go back to for after here, then they'll come back, and as explained. And I'm thinking, if I could call and do that and find out, why can't we know ahead of time what's going on?
I thought we did send out.
Say again?
I thought we did send out an e-news about the paving that was going to be done.
You may have, I missed it then if you did. But
Yeah, it was, I believe last week or early. Yeah, late last, or sometime last week that one went out about the fact that they were going to be doing a loop.
yeah,
Between
I
our
found
two
out
meetings.
Yes, yeah.
they were going to start Monday, which they did. And lastly, has to do with kind of a procedural thing again. As I remember, it was entitled the Rules of Procedure. Is that the correct name? That you drafted up, Bob, as some drafts?
Oh, the meeting, yeah.
Some drafts. And then you put together, I think it was the last meeting, where you voted it in and said, that's what we're gonna do. My concern is, when government levies under the obligation to the people ought to be involved in it. No one, we never had an opportunity that I found out to say, here's what I think. And I think that should have been done. I've never seen it published or where I could find what it says. So I don't know where it is, or what it says.
The document that Bob wrote that we all looked at and approved of was in
Rules of order.
in the last meeting. Was that attached to the minutes?
Procedural rules.
Procedural
Yeah,
rules.
what's attached to the minutes? Yeah.
Double check.
The minutes, as I recall, said, yeah, we passed it, but the details of what it says and how we're supposed to conduct ourselves.
It wasn't in the minutes?
I didn't see it, if it did, I didn't see it.
Okay.
Just double check, see if that was sent out again.
Yeah.
But the basic point is, why weren't we part of the review process to say, we the people think that's okay, or we the people don't like that?
Okay.
So that's my comment, and I would tag on to that as well. When I read the discussion about how we can present comments to the board, I think it's kind of not nice to say, here's what you can say, how to say it, and here's what we won't do.
Again, I
So
think
that's
it's
the
more or
end.
less for us time to take your comment and investigate, before opening our mouth and saying something that may or may not be true or factual. I think that's more what I understand about the commenting process. If you want to make a comment, we're going to, like, for example, the rules of order, we have to go on the back and see if it actually was in the minutes and take care of it if it wasn't. So I think a lot of times, at least my understanding of it, is that the comment section gives us time to reflect on your comment, instead of making a split decision right here in front of you right now. That's my understanding of the comment time. We let you comment, but we don't have to necessarily react to your comment. That's my understanding of how we want to run that.
I understand that.
We certainly want you to comment, don't get me wrong. No, we're not trying to discourage anybody from making comments to us. But it's just a formality, if you will, on how we conduct business after you make your comment.
Well, I think that's kind of normal. However, when it says how we want you to do, I just don't think it's right. And I think it's an insult to a lot of people. That's the end of my comments. I won't ask any questions or say anything.
Honey, I'm sorry, I called you George. I apologize.
His name is George.
George.
It is George.
Is it George?
That's
That's right.
Nobody knows that.
I'm going deja vu all over again.
But I appreciate you listening.
Just to comment on as far as the rec center, I think Baton and Jackson, the more we do together, the better. I wish we could combine our police and school eventually too. But one thing, and this isn't a complaint, but I was up at the dump the other day and I have a hydraulic dump trailer. Unfortunately, I just had brush. But apparently, because of the selectmen's ruling, you cannot use hydraulic dump trailers at the dump. I mean, I haven't got a big one, it's a small one, and it's not really an issue for me, but I suppose if I had construction debris, it could be. I don't need an answer, I just,
Don't you?
B.
well, it's.
Oh, I can't use the hydraulic.
B.
Whose campus parking them? I'm just asking, it's been there a while.
Pete, do you know anything about the camper down there?
Of course I do.
Is it yours?
That camper is parked there because there are homeowner regulations associated with the Wentworth condos that don't allow people to park campers. And they recently purchased it, so they couldn't be there for longer than, I think, 5 days. We don't currently have any regulations that prohibit the parking of a camper like that at the municipal lot, other than the winter ban that begins November 1st, which will be gone. I think September 15th they're leaving, so I suggested it as a place to park. It's their only vehicle, so they sold their car and they bought a camper and they're leaving September 15th, so they walk from Wentworth, pick it up. They go to, I think they describe it as like festivals. I don't know if they go and participate or sell something or what, but that was a a good agreeable in-between, absent any regulations that prevent it.
I was just asking because it was bad.
Ask away.
Nobody's presently living there.
No, it's their car. With curtains.
Like the band in the 70s. Doc?
I wanted to bring this up differently and speak to you all individually about it before being public, but given what I just heard with this, where the campers parked, I wanted to talk to you about our school bus parking. And the school recently, both our bus drivers retired, and one of our bus drivers is bringing one of the buses home at night. So we only have one bus to park, and it's been parked at the fire station there for years and years now. Parking too there has been raised as an issue, so we're trying to figure out a solution to that. And speaking with Jay and Pat, one of the best short-term solutions we think we might have for the buses is parking them in the parking lot down here, which would be using that space overnight and during the school day. That's one reason why we don't park in the school, because they get parked midday while they're not being used. That used to be, one of them used to be at the house, but now we're gonna have two here, and it's really gonna be a burden to have two buses parked at the fire station. They can technically fit there, but particularly when it comes time for the winter time, it's gonna be a big hassle parking two there. So we're thinking about parking them both there and asking your permission to do that. I think if they're not here after September 15th, that's not gonna be an issue, but we might be wanting to talk to you about maybe making some formal, we didn't think that we'd ever have to make formal rules of engagement with it, but if there's no rules on how the municipal lot gets used, and we're looking to put two buses there, then we might need to have a bigger conversation about how we do that. And then the other thing is that if we do park them there in the wintertime, we might be back to the power issue again, because the current circuit that goes out there probably wouldn't be able to handle the load for those. And so at some point in time, I'm going to be coming back to you and having a bigger discussion about this.
You just park in front of a Christmas tree, because that,
Plenty of power there.
That thought went through my mind at one point too, is I wonder if we'd be able to park them across the street there, but that's not the most ideal, I think, place visually for them to be, but.
Yeah, just said, after November 1st, without a modification of the current winter parking ban, you couldn't park any vehicle there, municipal or otherwise. We also need to have block heater access, they need to have electricity, and I think you would also extend their day. I don't know who pays them, but because the fuel is there as well. So I think their fuel is there. Do they get diesel fuel?
Yeah, we do get the diesel fuel.
So it'd be just a little bit of a coordination there. But.
Yeah, we might need to modify those winter parking rules. I mean, in talking to Pat about it and all, that might be the easiest place to put them for snow removal purposes and how that gets done.
What about the garage down here?
Pat did say that we could park one there, but it's hard to get in and out of in the wintertime.
Backing in and out of there in the wintertime on the ice is not really, it's not gonna work.
So
it
it's,
should be an agenda like that, and have discussion. I wonder if maybe we could put that on next meeting's agenda and have a board representative here from the school board, and whether it's an initial brainstorming or what.
yeah, I talked to Julie about getting on this agenda. I wanted to talk to you individually before I did that, just to figure out how it makes most sense to do that. But yeah, if we can get on the next agenda, it would be good, because we probably need to.
Your shortage for space is as of this winter.
Yeah. Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay.
It keeps getting longer as I hear things. I only have one thing. Just follow up this random question here. Do we really need 2 school buses here in Jackson? How many students do we have?
So, yeah, it's not a question for this meeting at all.
Yeah, I just out of curiosity.
I'd be happy to talk to you about outside the music. They're going to, but yes, we do need to. It's the short answer.
I'll take you for it. Follow up on the notice about the paving. When did the survey, the composting survey go out? And what was the means for publication of that? Is that on the e-news? Because I haven't seen any.
I didn't see it on e-news, but I don't
That was generated by the Conservation Commission,
Okay, and they,
so Tom Saida would be one checking on that.
because I haven't heard anything about that, I'd be interested in.
Was it? I didn't.
And then, as far, the feasibility study, I went through that for the fire department. I wish, like, you could sort of bring this stuff up while everybody's still here, but, I didn't see any, is the feasibility study in process, or is it just a proposal from, SDA?
It's not in process yet.
It's just a proposal?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just,
Yes.
because I didn't see anything in there about, the proposed feasibility study does not include a study of the existing conditions. And if I look up at item B, much of the wiring and plumbing is not up to current code. Who makes, or who made that determination? Was it, examined by a professional engineer, or is it just something that everybody's tired of looking at? So,
Probably.
well, a little bit of both, probably. But again, I think.
Kevin and Jay are in the building.
Yeah, so I'm just, I would think maybe the feasibility study should include a study of existing conditions so that it's all wrapped up in one source.
Can be part of the committee that will be formed, and we get that going.
And I'll be happy to bring it too.
All right, committee go.
And then the last thing, they've already left, so it might be a moot question, but this part is not. Is the beautification committee, is that chartered by the town, or are they all, is it just part of the Jackson Area Chamber of Commerce? Is that?
I missed the first part of that.
Is the the JACC beautification committee, is that something that has been chartered by the town since they're affecting things in the town?
It's a line item that we voted on in the budget every year.
Okay.
At a town meeting.
Okay, but they're autonomous as far as deciding what they do, like for instance, the snowflakes. I know they came to you for the signage, but so they can just decide what things are going to look like here in the town without any input from townspeople, because it seems a little self-serving for me that snowflakes, advertising a snowflake in, whether intentionally or not, and nobody has a say about what that's supposed to look like. We were somewhat disappointed with the wreaths the last time because we were given the idea they were going to be much larger and whatnot, and all of a sudden they showed up the way that they did. I know that there were budgetary constraints, but it would be nice to have a little public purview over these sort of decisions. But I will take that up with them. I didn't know whether or not.
In part of their, it's part of their, the Chamber of Commerce community that, came up with the idea in exchange of the reach for the.
And I don't want to tie the board up with that. I just didn't know who I should be talking to about that. So, okay, I'll keep quiet.
Are we all set?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, yes, we'll adjourn. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and vote to go into non-public